Infatuation. So, infatuation. I started thinking about this topic, I don't know, last week, but I wasn't thinking about it for a video. I hadn't done any writing for a while, and I was having a conversation with a friend about like Peter Pan syndrome and youth and maturity, and started talking about. Well, I mean, when we started talking about maturity, it just led into other areas, and all that stuff just led into like different types of love, and yeah, my thoughts just like kept rolling on. So I was thinking about infatuation and what that means, and I wrote like 5 pages on it. It started as one thing and turned into something else. It's on my Instagram page. You can see it there. But I did want to talk about it. As I've mentioned before, like saying, like writing it out, it's interesting because the order might make a difference. Because right now I feel like I'm just rehashing what I've written with an opportunity to learn more. But like writing things out, because it's a slower process, it can take a turn and move and whatever and go on a journey, but it's really different than talking and just saying things out loud because it's so quick. That's when I have a lot of revelations, whereas when I write it, it's just not the same. It's just because it's a different process, and the speed makes a massive difference in the epiphanies I have, I guess. Just these things that I'm like, whoa, I didn't even realize that I thought that, and it makes perfect sense, and I get it now. Like, yeah. Anyway, Merriam-Webster's dictionary, Merriam-Webster's, I don't know. Anyway, that is the dictionary that I trust, that I use, m-w.com, or, the app, says that infatuation is a feeling of foolish, we're going to come back to that, or obsessively strong love for, admiration for, or interest in someone or something. And then it has : strong and unreasoning attachment. I want to break that down a little bit because infatuation is seen as like a really negative thing, I think. I think the word obsessive in there is completely, it's like a huge synonym almost. I mean, when you think of infatuation, you think of someone obsessing over someone or something, and that's usually, again, negative and unhealthy, and I think that's what we think of when we think of infatuation. I have this thing where I want to do a deep dive on a word, and then I start changing the real definition of it, and it's like, it's not what you do. Like, you can't just go around changing the definition of words and stuff. But I want to look at this. I want to look at this and dissect it and pull it apart because I feel, there's 2 reasons why, but one reason is because I feel like I have a predisposition to infatuation, if that makes sense. I feel that I can get, I don't want to say unreasoning. The word strong in here I like. Okay, so let's go through it again. A feeling of foolish or obsessively strong love for admiration for or interest in someone or something. If we took the word foolish out of there, because it says a feeling of foolish or obsessive. So let's say a feeling of obsessively strong love. I don't have a problem with that. I don't think any of that has to be negative. Then again, obsessive. What is obsession? You know what I mean? Like, it's different than commitment, which is one of the things that I talk about in the writing, is that, like, what's the equivalent to infatuation except in a healthy way? And commitment isn't it, because commitment doesn't take a strong love. If you're committed to a person or a thing or whatever, it doesn't take a strong love to be committed. You can be committed and function in whatever that thing is, like the duties and responsibilities of that thing, without having a strong love for it. And that's just facts. That's just a thing. You don't have to have a passion or a strong love, let alone obsessively strong. So I'm having a hard time finding an equivalent word to define infatuation, but in a more positive way, without words like foolish or unreasoning. Because so let's just say, instead of saying like I want to just like make my own definition of this word, I'm just trying to figure out what is the word? What is the word that exists? Words are important, and language is important, and it helps. I mean, it changes the way that we perceive things as well, with the language, with the words that we have versus someone else, what they have, and there's a lot of stuff going on with learning language, using language, how it changes us. We don't just use it, and that's all. We are affected by the language we use. So if we say a feeling of obsessively strong love, now obsessively strong love doesn't have to be bad. Obsession does not need to lead us into the darkness where we would do anything absolutely for whatever that is. That could be addiction. Obsessiveness could lead to an addictive nature, which, might be, again, a negative thing. It can lead you down a dark path, and what you're willing to do for said thing to get whatever the outcome is, because you're showing obsessively strong love for that thing. That's just it's a human thing, and because it's human, it's incredibly fallible and also incredibly diverse, and you could be doing really negative things to get the desired effect, whatever that is. So if you have a feeling of obsessively strong love or admiration for or interest in, let's just say, someone, that means maybe that you could be going out of your way to do nice things for them. But the thing is that you can have that feeling without acting on that. That's another huge thing. It's a feeling of. You have infatuation, a strong obsession. Now it also says it could be strong and unreasoning attachment. That's the part that throws a wrench into this, because we already threw foolish out because there's a feeling of foolish or obsessive. And I don't think obsessive has to be foolish. Depends on how you handle your obsession, right? So if it's a strong and unreasoning attachment, I like the word strong, I like the word attachment, I don't like the word unreasoning, because I understand that some people may fit this definition perfectly because it is unreasoning. It's like an obsession that is a fad. It's like, it's a flash in the pan, it's quick, it's like it doesn't have depth to it, and there's no commitment to it. And I think that a lot of infatuation is seen that way. But I think you could be truly just deeply, obsessively in love with a person or a thing or whatever, and just be amazed by them. And I think infatuation would work, and it could be healthy. You could have that feeling, and you can express it in a healthy way. You know what I mean? Like, that's something that you can feel, and you can figure out how to communicate that with that person's love language or whatever else, where it doesn't have to be scary or dark or unhealthy. I think infatuation is a beautiful feeling. I think, like, again, I'm just really prone to that, like just strong feelings in general. So I think that infatuation is a beautiful thing. I like having that strong feeling. It's a nice, strong feeling. It's not depressive sadness. You know what I mean? Like, we're talking a feeling of obsessively strong love or admiration. Like, that's a good thing inherently on its face value. Again, does it have an equivalent that is worded in a way that's healthy? I can't find one. The other thing I think of is that people think infatuation is easy. I think it's just either natural or unnatural. I don't think it's easy or difficult necessarily. It comes along with some difficulties, which I'm going to get into. But it in of itself is a feeling. It is not an action. So that feeling is not always an easy thing to feel or a difficult thing to feel. It's just I really feel like it's something that's natural or it's not. I don't think that you can practice having an infatuation. You can practice what you do with those feelings, but as for some people just don't, it's like being attracted to someone physically. Some people are not attracted to anybody physically, period, or just until they're attracted to them mentally and emotionally. That they can't, that the physical, just that person as an object, as a literal aesthetic object, doesn't arouse them at all without an attachment other than their physical being. Like, They can't appreciate an aesthetic object that is a human until, they learn more about them and like other things about them. So, but that's just it seems like an innate quality that you can't really shift. So infatuation to me is either a natural thing with you or it's not, and you can work on how you express or not express those things, but as for feeling it, I don't really know what you can do about that. Where it gets difficult and where there can be I think some obvious things, people are like, oh, if someone's really obsessive, they could be like stalkerish or like just don't know how to leave somebody alone, or yes, again, that is how you express things. It's not about the feeling in and of itself, although the feeling makes you want to do things with that feeling, right? Like, I want to express myself all the time. As an artist, I want to express my feelings. I want to express my feelings toward another person to them and let them know, because if they know my feelings, then they can give feelings back, and that's nice. Or like, there could be a relationship that's not like a reciprocal thing can happen, right? Like an actual relationship, not a one-sided, I feel these things I'm not going to express. So I think that is like an obvious path that people would think of as being negative, is expressing things obsessively in a dark way that someone else might not like, or it could be disturbing. But there's another part of this that is really difficult. And that is when you have someone who does get infatuated in the way where they don't, like, here's a strong and unreasoning attachment, and that's what I'm going to talk about. Because I think you can have a feeling of obsessively strong love or admiration for or interest in someone or something, and that can just be positive, and that's it. You have a really strong feeling, and that's it, and what you do with it is healthy, and it's great and beautiful and wonderful to have those feelings. It's just a very rich experience. It's magical. It's lovely. But you can have someone that has the strong and unreasoning attachment as an infatuation. And that's really difficult, not just for them, difficult for their target. And it's a choice word. But I mean, if you are expressing that feeling to somebody and it's unreasoning, you've given somebody, I had a quote once that was, I wrote something a really long time ago that I reference a lot. And that is, false hope is a cruel seed planted by demons. And I just think it's one of the worst things it's just the worst, I don't know, a manipulation tool, whatever else. Like false hope, giving somebody false hope is a horrible thing. And I think that when you express infatuation to somebody, if they felt the same about you and they start to have all these feelings that are growing and ideas and things that are happening because you've expressed something that you shouldn't have expressed because your infatuation is fleeting, that's a problem. And I think that it could be a very malicious thing, but that's the difficulty, is that I think this happens, if we want to give the benefit of the doubt that someone isn't doing this to be malicious and hurt somebody, that there's a certain amount of carelessness in not knowing one's self. So if someone is expressing infatuation with someone else, when they don't know really that they like that person, that they have those strong feelings for that person, that they can commit to those feelings, like that it's just fleeting and that's it, again, that's a huge problem if you express that to that other person. It's not a good thing. You need to know yourself. So the benefit of the doubt is being like, okay, well, that person didn't mean to do that. They just didn't realize that, 3 days later, they'd be over it, which is just a stupid thing. I'm just calling it out as stupid. Because after this happens a few times, and you would assume that would happen in your youth a few times, you should understand, I don't know myself. I know that I don't know myself very well. So what I need to do is hold on to that feeling for a while before I express it and make sure that I actually feel that way for more than just a few days. That I'm not just getting caught up in some exciting thing, maybe because it's a coping mechanism because I'm not doing well in this other area of my life, whatever it is. And hold on to that. And one of the things that I wrote about was like, if you are holding on to that feeling and that little ball of infatuation sprouts thorns that pierce you and hurt you to hold on to, that's too bad. Like, if you could let go of it and give it to the other person, well, then your fleeting infatuation is just going to hurt them. And if you get hurt by holding on to that for a while, then maybe you will learn to reassess your feelings quicker and understand them better, so that you don't have that natural feeling that you were holding on to or expressing, that you can have the feeling and be like, and you can think about it, you can assess, you can do what you need to do, analyze and figure things out, because I think it's just a really crappy thing to do to somebody else, is to suck them into a beautiful, wonderful feeling that is false. And again, if you do that enough times, even though you may not have the intention to hurt, you are. And again, if you do that enough times, you just don't get a pass anymore. In my book, it becomes malicious behavior because you are careless and you don't care enough to change your behavior at all, and it affects other people, and it doesn't matter to you. One of the things that I see is people just being like, oh, I just need to figure myself out, I'm sorry. And it's like apologizing for needing to figure yourself out. And then you do that and you walk away without any consequence, whereas the person that you sucked into your fake fantasy land of feelings is left there wondering what the hell is going on, am I inadequate, what did they realize the last second, like, I don't know why they would have done that, like, and obviously there's some responsibility on the other party to just let go of that as well, which is what I realized when I was writing, is that some people say love is letting go. And I hate that phrase, partly because it's a huge cliche. Cliches mean something sometimes, and they're there for a reason, and sometimes they're great and they make sense. And this is something that does make sense to a degree in certain situations, but people just use it as a blanket term whenever it suits them. I mean, that's kind of what everyone does with language or ideas anyway. But I altered this to say that this is an example of self-love is letting go. If you're in a situation where someone has given you false hope, or someone expresses infatuation, and then they walk away from that with like, oh, I guess I need to figure myself out, I didn't know, I just like said all this bullshit that I didn't think about, I didn't realize it wasn't legit, I didn't know myself enough, I didn't care to deal with my feelings before I express them, and know their truth and their honesty before I rope someone else into feeling those things. If you are on the receiving end of that behavior, then self-love is just letting go of that as quickly as you can. Being like, okay, that person's shit, that's it. It's nothing to do with me, move on. And again, there's a certain amount of leniency for someone to figure out that they don't know themselves. But how often can you not know? Like, you have to be, like, again, there's differences with experiences in past and history, but I mean, you have to know at some point that you don't know yourself enough in certain areas and try to make adjustments there. One of the example I go to so much when I'm talking about cognitive things like this is memory. There's not really a lot you can do to better your memory, but you can know that your memory sucks. If you know over the course of years, I don't remember things very well, I'm really bad at remembering things like this or that, whatever they are, then you think you would find a fix to help you. I can't remember everything. As soon as I know that I need to remember something, I will put it in my phone. I'll take 5 seconds and just type up a reminder with an alarm, and then it reminds me. It's that easy. Like, different things work for different people. Maybe you need to carry around a physical day planner. Maybe you just use your phone. But again, there's a moment in time where you know there's something you need to remember. And if you should be able to know yourself that you don't remember those things. So in that moment, you might need to stop the fun thing you're doing to write it down. And if you refuse to do that work in that moment, then you're giving yourself an opportunity to forget. And that's on you. Memory in and of itself, if you have a poor memory, that is most likely, I mean, sometimes I guess it could be your fault if it's based off of voluntary drug use or something. But I mean, for the most part, people's memories and their ability to remember isn't up to them. It's like having taste buds. It's like sometimes you can expose yourself to different things and your taste buds can kind of change over time. But a lot of the time, that's not up to me. It's like, how is that up to me to just, my tongue likes something or doesn't like something? Well, my mind remembers things, and there's things you can do to improve your memory, they say, here and there. But again, generally, some people just have different chemistries going on that allow them to do different things and different skills and abilities. Well, again, you should know what you know, and you should know what you don't know. And sometimes you don't know what you don't know, but in cases like this, I feel like infatuation, expressing your feelings, those are things you've had opportunities to do at a young age. So as an adult, you should know that you are bad at some of those things and try to work on some of those things as best as you can. Anyway, those are my thoughts on infatuation. And again, they started out one way, kind of went somewhere else. But that's how I'm seeing things right now. And this was, again, in the context of, like, thinking about maturity and, like, being youthful as a mature adult and, like, what things you hold on to and what things you don't. Making choices, what's natural to you, what's something you could work on. And like I said, I just started thinking about it as, like, infatuation is something that's so tied to, like, youth and puppy love and whatever. And I understand why. But it's also like a natural feeling that it's like some people grow out of that feeling and some people don't. And I would say and raise my hand that I haven't really grown out of that feeling, but I recognize that I would never express those things unless I felt they were to be genuine and sincere. And with my track record, I don't just give those things out just, without knowing myself first and knowing that they're true. Anyway, that was fun. We'll see you on another time.